Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name's Nick Reed. We are streaming live, KSGF.com. And we are on YouTube. Here we go, YouTube, yeah. Off to a good start already.
Oh, man, you sound like death over there.
Oh, I still got it, whatever it is. Boo! But,
We're going to
I
get through
just
it together.
rarely do I not come in because I'm sick. I think the only times is if I literally cannot talk or I'm throwing up, which really doesn't happen that often. So I don't know. I'm determined to spread my illness to everyone here.
Good for you.
That's what I'm going to do.
Good for you.
And then maybe I don't know, go by a school or, the mall, just somewhere where I can spread it around to other people. But as a public service because it helps your immune system. It's like a vaccine, right?
You know what?
It kind of gives it to
I
you.
appreciate it.
I'm a giver. I am an absolute giver. I joked yesterday when there was the whole press conference, and one of the things discussed was the numerous different studies that have been done over the years, including as recently as last year, one from Harvard, linking the use of Tylenol in pregnant mothers to certain potential neurological issues and the enhancement of autism, perhaps being one of them, and how it doesn't matter that the Trump administration is, well, and of course they're not banning Tylenol. They're like, hey, this is just a heads up so you know all these studies exist. And so if you're a pregnant mom, you may not want to take Tylenol. And of course, because it's Donald Trump, they act like lunatics on the left. And I joked that they'll probably get online and start like taking handfuls of it. And there are actually, and of course they're women, liberals, because they are the most insane human beings that exist on the planet. Excuse me. And I mean, they're pregnant ones, just in order to like really stick it to Trump, taking Tylenol while they're pregnant. Now, in all likelihood, it's not like this given where you are definitely going to have a child with issues. And in particular, if they're just doing it, in one setting to prove a point. But how petty, how catty, how stupid do you have to be? What these people are complete and total morons. I just can't imagine being if you're a normal Democrat, elected official, and you look at the landscape of some of your voters, it's the lunacy. Now, I'm sure Republicans can, especially you get like the Mitt Romney Republicans and he recognizes and sees that, you got those Southern Republicans or the hillbillies that, fly the Confederate flag and oh, how embarrassing they are. But look at some of the people on the left. I mean, you got the assassins, of course, those that want to also murder police officers, Border Patrol agents. Want sex change operations for kids. Will down more than the recommended amount of Tylenol while they're pregnant just because of Trump. You've got completely mentally unstable, significant anti-Semites. It's just, it is an entire melting pot of lunatics, insane people, and really angry individuals whose brains have snapped and quit working. And I just, that some of these, I think Fetterman's one of them increasingly, some of these Democrats are looking at these people. Surely they see an event like the one that occurred on Sunday, and 100,000, 95,000 people all coming together because someone that represented some of their own values and ideals was murdered for it. And they see people that are coming together in song and in prayer and comfort. And then, oh, I want to look up, see what happens when some of my people get together at an event. And they're screaming and yelling and throwing things and attacking police officers. How do you tell yourself, yep, this is a both sides problem. Yep, Republicans have to deal with the same sort of problems that we do. The only time Republicans or conservatives deal with it is when they're the victims of the attempted or successful assassinations or the attacks on Teslas or, just beating somebody up because they have a MAGA hat on. That's the only thing that makes it a both sides problem, is when the left really just crosses that line from the hateful rhetoric and spreading the hate and decides to activate themselves and others and become physically violent. Then, yes, it is a both sides problem. It's a different kind of problem, but in that instance, it is a both sides problem. Kamala Harris going on The View. Did you see this, Jem? Oh, boy.
I don't think so, but I have seen quite a few of
Yes.
her interviews.
I just want me lots of Kamala Harris. I mean, the more she is out there and the more she talks. And the funniest part of it, we'll play some of the audio. They ask her about the infamous question as if it was the most difficult question ever. And that's when she was asked, yeah, so what's the difference between you and Joe Biden? And she's like, I can't think of anything at all. She answers that in standard Kamala fashion. But the part of what is so hilarious about it, and you'll hear it if you listen carefully, as she is rambling on, and it's making no sense. You can hear all of the ladies of The View, and they're all like, oh yeah, that like they're just so.
It's so
like
insightful.
It's so
what she's
insightful.
saying.
I'm like, what are you all are idiots? You know that people who get clips of The View that live in other countries must think American women are the stupidest human beings alive. The left toils over this idea in their minds that, other countries just think we're a bunch of idiots. Well, where do you think they get that idea? Particularly for women. Sit and watch just 5 minutes of The View, and I imagine people in other countries like, how is the United States of America as, advanced as they are? When you have at least half the population, women, like, this is what you could see that they would have this belief that these must be some of the best and brightest women. I mean, here they have their own show. They are put on one of the major networks during the day, and they present this as an information news show, so it's fair that people would infer these are the best and brightest women that are the most brilliant thinkers of our day, and that's why they are brought together and given their own show. And you watch. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's another segment of the Democrat voting population that I do not envy, the Democrat Party. And then Trump at the United Nations whipping him good. Accusations of sabotage. He and Melania get on the escalator. It stops suddenly. His teleprompter doesn't work when he gets up there. Evidently, there were mic problems as well. Trump, of course, handled it in true Trump fashion. And also, there's just been a lot over the last 24, 48 hours, proving that he, again, is a horrible, horrible ally of Putin. He's a failure as a puppet of Putin. When asked, while everybody else sort of tiptoes around, well, NATO, what should they do if Russia invades their airspace? And so Trump is asked, well, should NATO shoot him down? He's like, yeah. Yeah, they should. That's a really weird thing for a puppet of Putin to declare before the world. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 80.
Okay, Ryan Routh. That was a fast trial. Did you know that's over? He was found guilty.
Yeah, didn't
I,
he
I
try
mean,
to stab himself in the neck?
yeah, he did. This is one of the left-wing activists that tried to assassinate Trump. And he had his trial. He represented himself. He was found guilty all over the place. And then he picked up a pen as jurors were leaving the courtroom and started trying to stab himself, prompting marshals to pull him out of the courtroom, according to the Associated Press. Now, I don't know whether he was being dramatic or actually trying to do it. Marshals shackled him at the waist and ankles before bringing Routh back into the courtroom, according to Fox News. Then his daughter sprinted away from the media, screaming, "Get the F out of my face," after her father was found guilty of attempting to assassinate President Trump. Wonder what happened. Remember his son at one point, that whole weird thing? He had a son that popped up.
Oh, yeah.
And he gave a couple of interviews and then sort of disappeared. And it turned out, if I remember right, he was pretty left-wing also. His daughter said, "Dad, I love you, don't do anything." Well, she screamed that, saying, "I'll get you out." And then going on to say he didn't hurt anybody. Well, he tried. Then again said, "Get the F out of my face." He was convicted yesterday, 5 counts, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate, assaulting a federal officer, and several gun charges. Representing himself through the 12-day trial, presenting his own opening and closing statements, and cross-examining witnesses, Routh, whose defense strategy focused on proving his peacefulness, nonviolence, and gentleness, was reprimanded numerous times by Judge Eileen Cannon for veering off topic. Lord only knows what the verdict would have been if it was the Southern District of New York or Washington, D.C. Though maybe D.C., Trump could potentially get at least a more fair shake with jurors, given that they have seen their quality of life increase massively. Well, it depends. If they're jurors, if they're the rich white liberals who already live in the safe gated communities, they're doubly angry at him because he's trying to make it safe for people of color to live in D.C. as well, and has done so, in fact. But if it was a jury of citizens of D.C. that have benefited greatly from his cleanup of crime in Washington, D.C., he could actually get a more fair trial in the D.C. area than ever before. But this was in Florida, 12 days, guilty, and then he tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen. All right, let's do some of the Kamala Harris stuff. She was on The View, which pretty much sums up everything you need to know about her. And she... I can't figure out what she's trying to do. She's dogging on everybody. Some of the latest that have come out, and the book, I believe, is actually officially released. And she dogs all over Tim Walz, what a bad debater he was against J.D. Vance. And there was, after that particular debate, SNL did a sketch in which Kamala Harris, the SNL player that played Kamala Harris, Maya Rudolph, I think is her name, and then I don't know who played Dougie in the sketch, but it's of them watching the debate and just horrified by how bad it is. And at one point she spits out her wine, and in the book she says, other than spitting out the wine, that was pretty spot on how we reacted. Now, can you imagine being Tim Walz or any Democrat and acknowledging it? It didn't go well, but of all the people, Kamala Harris is seriously going to critique someone else's political performance in any capacity whatsoever? Of all of the people, like, oh, okay, you clearly have demonstrated that you have a great deal of knowledge when it comes to these things. Now, let's see. Okay, here is this is Kamala Harris, and she is responding to the question by the ladies at The View about her, I guess it would have been her last visit, and of course the huge thing. The theme of the Trump campaign was Kamala Harris is just Joe Biden. It's just the exact same thing. So if you want 4 more years of Joe Biden policies, Kamala Harris is your person, because there's no difference between them whatsoever. They are the absolute same. And so these media outlets were desperately trying to give Kamala Harris opportunities to break through that, to get the upper hand, to start controlling the narrative and to say, no, here's where I'm different. And of course, when she was asked how they're different, she's like, I can't think of anything at all. She was asked about that moment yesterday on The View.
That day in that interview, for me, really was symbolic of the issue, which is that I'm a loyal person. And I didn't fully appreciate how much people wanted to know there was a difference between me and President Biden. I thought it was obvious. And I didn't want to offer a difference in a way that would be received or suggested to be a criticism. I realize now that I didn't fully appreciate that how much of an issue it was.
Did you hear me? Oh yes. Such wise words. there's a lot about this that demonstrates why it is that Kamala Harris should not be in any leadership position because she has no leadership skills. You're wanting to be leader of the free world at a time in which there are wars going on, one of which we are funding largely. You have terrorists holding hostages in Israel, some of which are American citizens, or holding them in Gaza. You've got the threat of China invading Taiwan. What are we going to do about that? That really will have an impact on us. I mean, these are just a few little things. Kamala Harris wants to be the person that navigates the world, by way of the United States through these historic moments in which you have some involving dictators. And when she is asked the real true defining question, okay, you want this position. How is it that you're going to be different than what we've had over the last 4 years? And she didn't give an answer because she didn't want to hurt Joe Biden's feelings. She didn't want to look like she was saying something bad about him. Is this how you would make decisions as president of the United States? Which is, frankly, the opposite of Donald Trump. He could not care less how people feel about his decisions, or at least he might, depending on the situation, have some concerns. But it's only in the capacity of is that reaction going to be something that's beneficial for the country? But this is just a personal thing that, well, I didn't want to be mean to him and feel like that. No. You should not be in any position of leadership with that sort of perspective. The other portion of her explanation there that she thought it was obvious, the differences. Now, this is where if I was on The View, I would have said, well, actually, can we talk about those now? Of course, they just, yes, brilliant analysis, brilliant words, so insightful. Kamala Harris to say, plus, I just thought it was obvious, all the differences. Well, one, then why was everybody constantly trying to get you to explain the difference between you and Biden if it was so obvious? But this is where you ask the question, well, okay, what are those differences you're thinking about right now that you thought were so obvious? How you were completely different than Joe Biden, that you didn't even need to mention it when asked. That's how obvious it was. Of course, there is no answer. Now, she would ramble on as if she was giving defining differences, saying, well, I felt that we should have maybe spent more money here and there. These weren't differences. These are just things that she said that she would do that had not been done. Wasn't that they were differences in approach or opinion. She was just listing off things that I think we should have done this and this in the future. Not, I would have done it different than Joe Biden. He was wrong. He was incorrect. And then acknowledging that I just didn't really think it was that big of a deal. You want to... the difference in Trump's connection and understanding of what is important to the average American versus Kamala Harris's complete admission there, well, I just really didn't know that's something people cared about. Yeah. Whether that's true or not, it really seems to fit the bill. Going to get traffic in a moment. I'm Nick Reed, the Pyramid Roofing Company, text line 447 KSGF. And we will be out there quite a bit with Sandcrest Trailer Sales during Farm Fest. In fact, we'll kick things off broadcasting live that Friday, October 3rd, sponsored by Brad Pistole, host of Save Money Radio. And then we'll be checking in throughout the entire weekend on air with a number of our different partners, Honda of the Ozarks, Wheeler Metals, and many, many more. Ozarks Elder Law, not planning at all, is not a good plan. You think I can do it online? I hear these ads, and it's just as easy as, going online and getting it. To me, it's like air conditioner in a can for a car. That is not only not going to work for you, but could potentially make things even worse. And in Missouri, in particular, if you think that downloading something that is official and it looks legal, and I paid $29.99 or $89.99, whatever it is, and you think that that is something that the government is going to honor and respect, then you're going to find yourself very, very, very sadly mistaken. Now, you may say, what I really feel like, this is solid. Listen, a consultation with Ozarks Elder Law is a courtesy to you. So set up an appointment, 10 area locations, free consultation. You know what? Who knows? Maybe they'll say, actually, you do have your stuff together. You are good to go. And then you'll know, peace of mind. If not, however, dodging a bullet. And they tell you ahead of time, in order to have that safety and security, legally speaking, here's the cost up front. There's no hourly fee, quarterly fee. It's one price, so you know ahead of time when you decide whether or not to secure that future. With Ozarks Elder Law, Lori Rook and the crew, you can find them at ozarkselderlaw.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today, showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight, showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 80.
I feel like that break was really long for some reason.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know why. Just thought I'd share that. I was talking about Farm Fest and Sandcrest Trailer Sales running those ads, and they're talking about this trailer raffle, and they did this last year as well, so generously donating a really high-end, nice trailer for raffling with the dollars going to Warrior's Journey, another partner of ours, and it was a success last time around, and so they said, yeah, let's do that again this time. And you were telling me during the break that there's a place that you have set up so people can easily can they buy raffle tickets online?
They can, yep. So if you go to ksgf.com, it's on that homepage slider, and it says join us at Ozark Fall Farm Fest. And it kind of has a list of all of our sponsors and just kind of what we're going to be doing out there, because we got a lot of different things that are happening, like a couple different broadcasts, remotes, all that good stuff. So kind of lay it out for you, and at the very bottom, you'll see like a little link where you can click on it, and it explains all, like how the trailer raffle works. It has all the information about it, which is a 2025 load trail 16-foot utility trailer valued at $5,500.
Yeah, I hadn't checked it out, but I know, the folks at Sandcrest Trailer Sales are completely top-notch, and I know the one that they donated last year for the raffle was extremely high quality as well. So I had no doubt.
This one is too, and it's custom sky blue.
No.
I know.
Okay.
How about them apples?
Them apples are delicious. Kamala Harris on The View yesterday. I just really genuinely, I enjoy listening to her now because I know that she has no real impact on anything other than she's detrimental to the Democrat cause. The more that she is a presence out there, the better it is for Republicans, because it's just more of the same stuff. I mean, she's not the only one whose presence is detrimental to the Democrat cause and their advancement, but as they're really grappling for any sort of focused identity that is palatable to the average American out there, having her out there sort of ripping on these other people, I just don't know what her goal is. It clearly isn't laying the groundwork for some sort of alliance to be created to throw support behind her. If she's running for president again, which I guess she is, I think it is in her book. She admits some of the stuff she admits to, not realizing how it looks, is that when I guess she had reached out to Gavin Newsom in the context of vice presidential picks, and he just didn't even return her call. He didn't even return her call. Remember when she got all mad during, let's see. Oh, it was when the hurricane was headed towards Florida, and it was during the presidential election. Biden, I don't know if it was Biden still at that time, the nominee, or if it had been taken from him and given to her at that point, but she had reached out to Ron DeSantis, who clearly there's no governor that has things under control for an upcoming disaster than Governor DeSantis of Florida. I mean, even a lot of Democrats agree with that. The guy just has it. That is the guy you want to be your governor. And part of the reason, I think there's this misunderstanding why he's so successful, because the aftermath isn't months and months and months of this constant devastation that we see. And there is this belief some people have, probably on the left in particular, that, well, it turned out it wasn't that bad. It didn't do that much damage. No, it's because of the prep work that he has done. They prep for this stuff. It is all hands on deck, waiting for the moment to occur, and then once it occurs, they activate it. It's the opposite of what you saw out in California with the fires, where there was no prep work done, no plans in place. You had just a bunch of people running around. They didn't even have, water capabilities because they were so ill prepared for it. And Kamala tries to get a hold of, have a phone conference with Ron DeSantis, and he's like, I don't have time for this. We're prepping for a hurricane. And she was all bent out of shape over that. She sure calls a lot of people for significant things, and to these people that don't even pick up the phone to talk to her. I think it's hilarious. She talks about on The View yesterday. Well, I don't know. This is just Kamala Harris reflecting on the loss. It's more of the jumbled mess about the light and just the rambling emptiness of somebody who is talking a lot, but not really saying anything.
And I do believe that moving forward, we're going to remember that the power ultimately is with the people. And we have to remind folks that they cannot let their light and their spirit be diminished by who happens to be in the Oval Office at this moment. And that's part of what I hope to achieve with the book, is to remind us, people by the tens of thousands, for those of you who were there, came to those events with such enthusiasm and optimism and, dare I say, joy about the possibilities for our country. And that light is inside people. It's there, and it cannot be diminished or extinguished by an election or an individual. And we have to remember that. That light is inside us. And it's inside each of us, and we have to see it in each other and let that guide us through this very dark time.
Dare I say.
Oh, yeah. Even today, any Democrat gathering, when you listen and watch those people, is that what you see? You see joy. You see a bunch of people that are just really having a fantastic time. People that ultimately love each other and care and you know, they just out there just flying off of joy. That's what it is. Nothing but joy. Are you kidding? This is the denial. This is part of the reason that the Democrats cannot connect with people, because they are just so full of absolute crap. And everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. It was just so clearly different towards the end, when you have Joe Biden and the Democrats out there, and you know, Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage, and they're running around saying this is going to be the last election ever if Trump gets elected, that he is a dictator, he is going to set up concentration camps. You had elected officials. I think Congresswoman Dingell was actually of Michigan, was actually challenged on either, I think it was CNN, because it was just such a ludicrous claim that Trump was going to set up concentration camps and put people like her in it because she's political opposition. Kamala Harris describes that environment as joy and a light in all of them. Running around screaming, we're all going to die, we're all going to die, is a positive, joyful outlook in the minds of Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, during that same period of time, you got Donald Trump taking orders, drive through McDonald's. You see what you saw on people's faces as they pulled up to that McDonald's, every one of them, that was pure joy. Pure joy. Shows up in a garbage truck. Lambeau Field, I think that was at Lambeau Field. And I mean, just a stadium filled with people that were having a good time. They were all, you know, people were running out and buying those safety vests that you oftentimes see with sanitation workers because that was joy. Having a good time. Feeling positive. We had I believe it was the day after that particular event, and it was someone from the area who had driven up to go to that event and was describing it. And the thing I remember is he talked about once he got there and was amongst other MAGA Americans, he just felt better. He felt more positive. How do you think people felt when they left Kamala Harris events? How do you think people feel on the left when they leave these no king events or pro-trans events? Do you think that they leave with just feeling better about life, feeling better about being an American? There's a darkness, there's an angriness, and you can see it if you ever watch these videos where people will go around and interview them and just ask them questions. Sometimes they literally just scream. Not even words, just scream in the face of the person asking questions. It's almost demonic. And then you had, again, just people that would go to these Trump events and they would walk away feeling better about the country, feeling better about their neighbors and their loved ones than they did when they got there. Now, you tell me which of those is joy versus which one is complete vacuum of joy. Now, upon losing the election, this audio next, and just the risk of spoiling it for you, when she said she had not been, the night that she realized she lost, she had not been that devastated since her own mother had died. So that 107 days, I mean, she just really, really packed a lot of emotion into it. Her comments on that. On The View yesterday next. I want to greathomeloan.com. If you got any home loan needs, the Carrickers and their incredible team for well over a decade. I've been promoting them to you. They are a great part, and they just do a fantastic job. In fact, they oftentimes are the second go-to because the first turned out not so great. We spoke, it was weeks ago, with Anthony, and he was talking about, I think it was Anthony, it was one of the two characters, and he was talking about how someone had come to them because months and months and months had gone by, and the person that had been handling at some big institution their home loan, it just wasn't happening. Like, what is going on here? And within 2 weeks, the characters had it done, taken care of. And that's not an isolated incident. I recommend going to them first. That way you can just skip the hassle of any sort of problematic situations that you may have with someone else. But if you do find yourself thinking, man, can this be any more difficult? Having a hard time getting a hold of someone, you just aren't getting the answers you need, then go over to iwantagreathomeloan.com, see what that's like. Kamala Harris, this talk.
Who I could kind of like, what was your, like the different perspectives of a moment. And that's when Doug told me that he had been out campaigning with my brother-in-law in Pennsylvania, and we met back up in D.C. And I remember him being a little out of sorts, but there was so much happening. But on his way back from a rally where there was an incredible amount of enthusiasm, people on the ground were like, we got it, we're going to do this. And then they talked with a mutual friend of ours who was over at Fox News in the war room, who had been hearing about data that suggested things were not looking great in Pennsylvania. And the way I write about it, I mean, my poor husband, so he didn't want to put that on me. He went upstairs and he basically went in the shower and prayed that it was not going to be a bad night. And it was, my family was there, everybody was there. I've always on election night done family and friends and dinner. But that night, I grieved in a way that I have not since my mother died. And the pain was, it was not at all about losing a race. I knew what it was going to mean for the country. I was going to say for the family. And that's how I felt, for the country.
We all agree.
I knew what it was going to mean.
Yeah.
But I knew.
Yeah.
And all I could say over and over again is, my God, my God, my God. It was very difficult. I know many people experienced it in different ways. Yeah.
She talks like she was a firefighter on 9/11 who lost every one of her fellow firefighters and barely escaped herself. I mean, that's what she talks like. She talks as if she's someone who has a son that is, still being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. The level of narcissism, and thank heavens, someone with that emotional constitution is not making decisions for all of us as the president of the United States of America. Someone that is that emotionally fragile. I mean, let's be honest. This isn't even as if this was some sort of long haul campaign where she went state after state after state, won primary after primary after primary. It was just handed to her. She didn't even have to get the nomination. It was gifted to her by multi-billionaires. The entitled attitude, the victim attitude of this woman, oh man alive. But now knowing that she can't do any damage to us, I hope she's out there talking a lot, because it's a different perspective when you watch it knowing this is someone. It's sort of like when you go back and watch the videos of people mocking the idea that Donald Trump will ever get the nomination or ever become president. At the time when you saw it, if you were a Trump supporter, it was very aggravating, disheartening, and frustrating. Now you like to go back and watch it, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. This is fun. Same thing with Kamala Harris and listening to her today. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Reed. I hope that you are doing fantastic. We are going to be once again at Farm Fest, again with Brad Pistole, host of Safe Money Radio. We're going to kick things off with the Friday Morning Road Show October 3rd. We'll be there the 4th and 5th as well. We will be checking in every day with Sandcrest Trailer Sales. They once again have a trailer, a very high-end quality trailer, selling raffle tickets with the donations going to Warrior's Journey. If you go to our KSGF page and then the Farm Fest section, you can go online and purchase tickets for that. And as we're there all weekend long, hopefully if some of you are out there, we'll see you. But you'll hear us checking in with some of our partners out there like Crown Power and Equipment, Race Brothers, and numerous others on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Jimmy Kimmel went. I'm not going to play audio. I frankly can't stand his voice. And he didn't apologize, of course, which I suspected he would not. But basically is trying to set the record straight that what you may have thought he meant, he didn't actually mean. So Americans misinterpreted him. But at the same time, in his addressing the issue, he continued to spread disinformation. Part of what he said is, I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't ever. So here he is. By the way, what got him in trouble in the first place was his attempt to disassociate the rhetoric of his ideology with the murderer, and that was by claiming he was a MAGA person. You know, last Monday saying that it was a low point in America as MAGA Americans were doing everything they could to convince Americans that this wasn't one of theirs. Well, of course, it wasn't one of theirs. And so this is simply a softening of that disinformation in which he's like, I don't think the murderer who shot Kirk represents anyone, really? His beliefs don't, his rhetoric doesn't represent anyone? Clearly it does. It is remarkable that given we have a dictator who we were told was responsible for Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air, that's been reversed. What happened here? We didn't really get any explanation there. In fact, Jimmy Kimmel's own explanation was one in which he said, I did not agree with the decision to pull him off the air on Wednesday, and I told them that. I was talking about Disney ABC. And we had many conversations. I shared my point of view, they shared theirs. We talked it through, and at the end, even though they did not have to, they really didn't have to. This is a giant company. We have short attention spans, and I'm a tiny part of the Disney Corporation. They welcomed me back on the air. Why wasn't Trump mentioned in this any? Jimmy Kimmel's little timeline of how things went, about the decision to take him off air, his conversations with the people who decided to take him off air, the fact that they agreed essentially to disagree, but then ultimately they decided to go ahead and put him back on air. Trump wasn't a component in any of this. Now, that's a far cry from the narrative that this is some sort of attack by Donald Trump on free speech. His monologue yesterday, walking us through from beginning to end, his suspension to his reinstatement, is an acknowledgement that this had nothing to do with Donald Trump. He acknowledged that. You know what would have been nice? If it had been genuine? Is if Jimmy Kimmel had come out and said, you know what, after this experience, of being taken off the air because of something that I said. I took a moment to look back at all the times that I mocked and celebrated Americans who went through the same thing as I did. And now that I've experienced that, I apologize to those people. I apologize to Tucker Carlson. When Fox News took him off the air, I apologize for my position that when you say, stupid things on air, you may have to pay the price for it. I apologize to Roseanne Barr for any sort of monologue and celebration for her being taken off her own show that she had developed decades ago because of comments that she made, not even in her professional capacity, but on social media. Apologize to Megyn Kelly for anything I may have said when she was fired from NBC because she talked about how when she was a kid, lots of white kids dressed up and as black characters, and it wasn't considered racist at the time, and as opposed to today. She was fired for those comments. And as someone who has actually worn blackface twice and did not get fired for it, I apologize to all these people. I see that I was wrong. That would be nice. Just even an acknowledgement that this cross that Jimmy Kimmel and his supporters are portraying him as dying on is something that he has long celebrated when other people were the ones suffering. And the fact that he doesn't even acknowledge that, doesn't mention it, doesn't say, hey, I've actually now had the shoe on the other foot, and I realize maybe I shouldn't have taken joy. I believe he even made comments about how something to the effect of how, Trump celebrated somebody losing their job because they disagreed with him and how horrible that was. Well, how many times have you done that? This is how you know that he simply said what he had to say to go back to keeping that money flow going so he could continue to be a multimillionaire, bringing in an abysmally small amount of viewership for ABC. Another rich lefty. Traffic coming up in a moment, weather as well. Now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 80.
Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. As low as $340 a month. Payments, 2025 Civic hatchback, 26 CRV, as low as $399 a month, $299 a month for a 2026 HRV. And the Pinnaker Advantage, this is something that is ongoing. If you have or you purchase a Honda with Pinnaker Honda, then you get the Pinnaker Advantage. That's 20% off routine maintenance with purchase of a new vehicle. And every Friday they have Food Truck Friday, a rotation of trucks with food, which is a great combination. So on your lunch break, test drive a new vehicle or maybe a pre-owned vehicle with interest rates oftentimes as low as 0.99%. Get yourself some lunch as well. Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Good people, the Pinnaker family. The media has become just so cartoonish. You do have to. It's a parody. It is a true parody. There was a story from NBC News. And this is national news. The headline: ICE held 5-year-old autistic girl in Massachusetts to pressure father to surrender, family says. So, of course, immediately, what you have to believe the people who are in the country illegally. And the story, as it was reported, is you have this, otherwise just completely loving family, upstanding citizens, a Massachusetts dad, and ICE. Oh, see, ICE, they know. They've got this autistic daughter, 5 years old. So we're going to grab her. And then we're going to haul her out into the street. And we're going to hold her hostage until he surrenders. Until he comes outside and surrenders. It turns out what actually happened was he was driving, apparently home, had this 5-year-old, which he claims autistic, maybe she is, in the car. When he saw immigration, he bailed out of his car and left his 5-year-old autistic daughter in it alone. So the ICE agents called local law enforcement and, comforted the girl, got her out, told her everything's going to be okay. And stood around, comforting her and gave her like a bottle of water and stuff so that she wouldn't be frightened. Yeah, and so to add to the disinformation campaign, there was a, with the headline that they were holding her hostage, they have a picture of her, and she's surrounded by all of these officers that NBC claims is holding her hostage. The father abandoned her, left her. I mean, it is a joke. If you were to have some sort of comedy that was about North Korea and the way that the media writes up stories in order to, everything Kim Jong-un does is wonderful, everything everyone else does is horrible, it's all just so clear propaganda. This is the sort of thing it would look like. A father in the country illegally, and probably, I imagine, there's a very good chance has some sort of arrest record, maybe served some time in jail. So he sees police, and oftentimes the instinct of those people is to run, bails, leaving his 5-year-old autistic daughter behind. So law enforcement takes to comforting her, making sure she's okay. Pictures taken of it, and the media says that they're holding her hostage in order to try and cynically coax out the father. The parody that media has become in this country. Over in California, you have Gavin Newsom, who's going to run for president, arguably running for president, has desperately been trying to stop what he and his party are responsible for, and that is energy companies, oil and gas firms leaving California. Democrat policies, California specifically, is extremely hostile to those industries. Deliberately so. They've openly said this. So much so, Gavin Newsom responsible for crafting an environment in which, 2035, he wanted to make it illegal for people to even purchase a gasoline-powered vehicle, much like cocaine or something, some sort of illegal drug that you would be purchased. It would be an illegal purchase. This is how twisted their minds are. And they regulate until they break these companies. Well, Gavin Newsom's running for president. And yet another company is on the verge of leaving because of the extremely hostile environment that has been deliberately created by the Democrats, Gavin Newsom specifically out in California, but they're trying to do everything they can to claw it back and stop it from leaving because gas prices are already much higher in California. This is just going to make the situation even worse. And understanding that energy is a cost concern for the average person. If you're running for the governor or running for the presidency as governor of California, all your opposition has to do is say, hey, you want everyone else in America? You want to pay twice what you do at the pump? You want to pay twice or three times what you do for your utilities every single month? Gavin Newsom can show you how to do it because that's what he's done in California. Following 25 years of what oil and gas executives categorize as hostility to the industry, the state is now making a plan to keep those companies from leaving. Concerned with the exodus of oil and gas companies, refinery closures, and the expensive price of gasoline in California, Gavin Newsom signed legislation last week that fast-tracks the approval of 2,000 new wells per year over the next 10 years in Kern County, a significant oil-producing region. See, so when he gets criticized for the massive spike in prices out in California, he can say, hey, no modern governor of California has ever been responsible for the approval of more. Chevron, the head of Chevron told reporters last summer about their move from California to Texas, noting the company had been doing that because California is a tough place to do business. Quote, it's a tough place to recruit people. It's a tough place to move employees. In other words, people don't want to move to California. A lot of our employees move up through the company. They gain experience in different geographies, different locations, and we have a lot of people who will not move to California. That makes it difficult. Fox Business Network's Lauren Simonetti said Chevron is, quote, not overly optimistic about California's recent charm offensive. Well, of course not, because it's all fake. And what does it say about a political party that puts its foot on the neck of its citizens until it needs their vote and then pulls the foot off just long enough to get reelected and then puts it right back down? These are bad people. Californians currently paying $4.65 for a gallon of regular gas, while the national average is $3.17, according to AAA. There are 13 refineries currently in operation in the state. When Valero and Phillips 66 shut down theirs, that which is underway, that number would be down to 11. In 1983, the state had 440, so 4 times as many. So Newsom, doing an about-face, is already starting the propaganda campaign. Upon signing this, said, quote, millions of Californians will soon start saving billions on their energy costs. Well, why would you just do it now? If I'm someone in California, I'm asking the question, are you going to pay me back for the difference? If you are claiming that we're now going to save billions because of you taking your boot off our neck, that we have unnecessarily been paying millions more all this time, hundreds of millions of dollars more. How do I get that back? Why were you doing that to us? This is just absolute typical left-wing politics. Treat people like trash, oppress them. Implement legislation that diminishes the quality of life, but the minute that you are going to need, out in California, if he's just running California, it doesn't matter because those people continue to vote for these self-destructive policies. But what Gavin Newsom recognizes that he has to win Wisconsin. He has to win Michigan. He's got to win Pennsylvania. He's got to win South Carolina. Maybe not all of these, but he certainly has to win a number of these states in which people are looking at the fact that they pay half what they do out in California. And so he has to desperately do everything he can to, at the very least, be able to say, well, I've done more drilling. I've done more of this. I've done more of that. I'm saving billions and billions of dollars for the average, citizen of California. But once he's in, if he were to get elected president of the United States, he'd just do what he did to the people of California. And there are a lot of people that are in this country that gripe about paying $2.50 a gallon that would still vote for somebody like Gavin Newsom because he's a Democrat. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers. Oh, wait, a friend of mine texted me and said that he asked ChatGPT if Jimmy Kimmel was sincere in his apology, and it said no. No.
Even AI knows. Oh, goodness. The Pyramid Roofing Company, we've obviously got more rain in the forecast, which means more chances for roof failures. If you've had yellowing on your ceiling, leaks, or maybe your gutters are just not keeping up, I want to recommend my good pals over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. They're upfront and honest, and they really do strive to come up with the best solution for you and your home, whether that be a whole new roof or maybe just a simple roof repair. They offer free roof inspections, no sales pitches, no scare tactics, and they work with you through that insurance process without making you sign anything beforehand. And they also offer discounts on new roof installs for our military and our first responders as well. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today and schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
We have, of course, heard this narrative from the left that Trump is a puppet of Putin, that Putin, of course, rigged. This is one of the conspiracy theories. A frighteningly high percentage of Democrats still believe that the 2016 election was rigged by Putin so that Trump would win. Yet, when it comes to actual meaningful action that is punitive against Putin, there's no modern president that has done that to a greater degree than Donald Trump. I mean, just in terms of actual things occurring. Now, He has called on NATO countries to shoot down any Russian jets that violate the airspace. Oh, the left's got to figure out where they're going to stand on this. Because on one hand, they like to accuse Trump of starting World War III. And they could obviously start sounding the alarms. What is he doing? You don't poke the bear. Putin has nuclear weapons. What is he trying to do? He's trying to start World War III here? He's going to shoot them down just because they fly into NATO airspace. But on the other hand, this is the point of NATO. And we know the left loves NATO. The point of NATO is if there's any sort of incursion on any NATO countries, it's on. And there's been this mushy gray area. You know, you have some drones come over, and there have been instances in which a stray missile will come over, and then it, turns out that it was a Ukrainian missile. And so, and sometimes these are genuine errors that occur in the initial reporting. Sometimes it's used for misinformation purposes. But it seems to me as if Russia is just testing things a bit, flying into the airspace a little bit, then a little bit more. And there are all these almost rhetorical questions. Well, what will NATO do? Trump understands that you have to be definitive in these things. And so he was asked, quote, this is a reporter, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace? Quote, yes, I do. Straightforward, yeah. Now, if you believe in NATO, I don't know how you can be opposed to that. See, all of this feeds into why we don't hear nearly as much about Ukraine as we used to. Because when it comes to meaningful action or definitive declarations, no one is being tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And that is contrary to what we've been told about Donald Trump. The statement came hours after Trump slammed the United Nations for not aiding his administration's peace push for creating new problems creating new problems for the U.S. and member nations. Also questions the UN purpose and offered the hand of American leadership and friendship to all countries in the body. And we're going to talk about the UN aspect of this here coming up. This is a dreadful organization that lends protection to evil. Trump has also, and this is not a benign statement, in a Truth Social post yesterday, Trump declared he believes Ukraine, with the backing of the European Union and NATO, can fight and win back all of its land. Now, this is a real shift because Trump had laid, to some degree, expectations when it came to a peace deal. And it was everybody's going to get something and everyone's going to be mad about something that the other guy gets. And one of the expectations that was set is that some of the land that Putin had taken, that Zelensky was just going to have to write it off. Not all of it, but some of it. And there were just a few essential givens at that moment, at that period of time. One of the reasons Trump is a success, that he is more successful than most when it comes to endeavors, is he recognizes when, okay, this is not working, we have to try something new. This is the opposite of the way most people work. It's why he has been able to get all these peace deals done, specifically in the Middle East, while other, president after president after president after president all take the same approach, all get drug around. I mean, it's just always the same. Trump operates differently. When you see something is not working, you got to change tactics. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get the same outcome. So this is a massive shift to go from creating the expectation that Zelensky was going to have to accept that Putin was going to get some of that taken land, to shifting to publicly declaring that with the help of the European Union and NATO, yeah, Zelensky can get every bit of that back. This is a new a new environment. This is a new place in all of this. This is a chess move, and what the reaction is, we'll see. Zelensky is, clearly noting as he sat down with Brett Baer, saying that the relations with Trump better than before. He's clearly very happy about this, and so while Trump is demonstrating through definitive declarations and meaningful action that Putin is going to start suffering here, and that we are shifting expectations to supporting Zelensky get back all this land, we're hearing just an odd silence from the left about focusing on what's going on in Ukraine. Why? Because Ukraine never meant anything to them. It was at one point a way to rally around Biden and to demonize Trump and Republicans who would sometimes say, hey, wait a minute here. Maybe we need to think about exactly what we're doing. What level of involvement do we really want here? Should we really be giving blank checks over and over and over again to these people? And it allowed the left, it was a tool to further the narrative that, well, clearly you think that you're supporting Putin because Trump is a Putin lover. But now that Ukraine is not a tool they feel they can use in order to make Trump look like he's a puppet of Putin, oddly silent they are in their rally cry for all things Ukraine. You people are so transparent.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 80.
There's breaking news that there are multiple injuries at an ICE facility in Dallas where apparently shots were fired. Now, of course, we don't want to draw any conclusion. We can't even begin to speculate what the motivation might be here. With all of the anti-ICE rhetoric, with the Democrats constantly throwing false accusations against ICE agents as being Nazis and claiming that they are, quote, disappearing people, and false story after false story after false story of them kidnapping people and holding children hostage. This could very well be just a Trump supporter. Or maybe a Charlie Kirk supporter. We don't know for sure. We've got to accept, and I suppose many of us have. We live in a world where one of the two political parties houses and supports violence and has no interest in it stopping whatsoever. After 9/11, there were these discussions, and I remember having them as well, about what will this country look like if terrorist attacks become normal. Not to the scale of 9/11 necessarily, but we would, the Richard Reed, the shoe bomber that got caught and stopped. But there were the Boston Marathon bombers. And at the time, there was reflection on how in Israel it's become a normal day of life. That you have one of the Hamas, which unfortunately has been given political status by an ignorant world who believe that that's how you hold them accountable. Instead, it emboldened them. And it got to the point where having suicide bombers on buses or any of the other methods of terror that they would carry out just became almost a way of life. And it was accepted. This is who Hamas is. This is what they do. And they live amongst us. And yeah, we don't like it and we can try and stop it. But the outrage to the level of unacceptability was something that had just diminished over time. And I believe we've gotten to that point with the Democrat Party in this country and their promotion and cultivation of violence against political opposition to where it's just kind of a standard thing. And part of that, of course, is the media, because they are ideologically part of that same wing. And so they clearly are not going to be out there distinguishing between the two political parties and noting, just the differences and what's really truly motivating the violence and so forth. And given that the left, it's just this standard, well, we all need to, bring down the rhetoric. And I believe a lot of Americans felt at some point, the Democrats would realize and the media would realize, okay, yes, we have created this environment. The people who are doing these things are doing them because they believe what we're saying, so we need to stop. We didn't realize that this would occur. First time or two that it occurred, we thought, well, it's a coincidence, but it's become clear. And even though those individuals are responsible for their own actions and they clearly are mentally unstable, we recognize that the consistency here is what motivates them are the things that we are saying. And so we are going to stop. I think a lot of Americans thought that at some point that would happen. We need to realize that that's not who the Democrat Party is today. Maybe 20, 30 years ago, arguably, maybe during the Clinton years, that possibly would have been the case. You have one elected Democrat that is out there vocally saying this is not who we are, and we have to stop using the language that is motivating these people to do this stuff, and that's John Fetterman. And they're looking to primary him, get him out of the party. Unfortunately, I believe we've just gotten to the point in which Democrats have created this new normal in America, a new normal in which people who are motivated by their words and their claims they feel justified in murdering people with whom they disagree. And part of the reason is because when they do it, the people whom they believed that motivated them to do it aren't saying, no, wait, listen, we were, okay, we know we said that he was Hitler. We know we said that he was a dictator and stuff, but we were being rhetorical. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Didn't realize that you were going to really believe that he actually is a dictator or that he actually is a Nazi. We're sorry about that. Knowing in hindsight that some of you people are going to believe this stuff and have believed this stuff, we take it back. It's not true. That doesn't happen. And so the outcomes are not going to change. So the latest story, this is from, I'm guessing, out of Dallas, the Fox affiliate there. Sarah handed me an active shooter situation, Dallas ICE facility, leaving multiple people shot, according to police sources. And you know how this early information comes, so it could change. 3 people shot, multiple in critical condition. The suspect, armed with a rifle, was a sniper on a roof. Gee, where have we seen that before? Police say the suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head as agents approached. So get ready for a round of major networks and other networks like CNN, NBC, and others to tell us we don't know any political motivation, that this is it's just hate. But no one's fueling it. It's just hate, that's all. As Fox is reporting, a sniper shooting multiple people at an ICE facility. Couldn't have seen that coming, could we? It becomes extremely disheartening as you watch people that it's just like they pop up. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you've seen any variations of that. Or Stepford Wives, be another example where people that, they're just normal people, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, oh boy, wait a minute. Something's different here. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that sort of happened. All of a sudden, we're people that maybe we knew or people that we didn't know, but like, this is a teacher, this is a nurse, this is a deputy. These are seemingly normal people, but all of a sudden they're exposing themselves as being these horrifically dark people celebrating political assassinations. And you think if an entire political party is fueling this, and they either refuse to accept they're fueling it or they know that they are, but of course they're going to deny it. We're in a very, very bad place, a very bad place. But then, I shared with you last week, it's from the New York Post, numerous states across the country are recording people that states in which you register your political party. We do not do that in Missouri, but a lot of states do. Record numbers of people that are officially declaring themselves Republicans. And it's anecdotal, but when the New York Post interviewed a number of these people, some of which were Democrats, they said, this is out of control. I'm not these people. And so I can't support them any longer. That's a good sign. I would suggest to you, there is no one in this country that has done the opposite. There's no one that is a Trump supporter or a Republican that after the Charlie Kirk assassination decide, you know what, I kind of like the way that the Democrats operate. I think I'll switch my voter registration and I'm going to start voting Democrat. Don't think that door is swinging that way. So it's positive news that some of these people in the middle and even some Democrats are saying, no, that is not who I am and I will not participate in this. I'd like to see some elected Democrats do that. It's a little scary that it's not happening again. Fetterman's at least calling out his party, saying we have to stop fueling this stuff by calling our opposition fascists and dictators. Step in the right direction. Here's another positive story. It's not specifically about the violence, but just the sort of authoritarian nature of the Democrat Party. South Dakota Democrat lawmaker switches registration to Republican. South Dakota State Rep Perry Poirier, who had been a Democrat, announced Monday that she switched her voter registration to Republican. Quote, I've formally changed my voter registration from Democrat to Republican. My name will now appear with a Republican designation, she said in a statement. That move leaves just 5 Democrats in the Mount Rushmore State's House compared to 65 Republicans. Poirier, who is Oglala Lakota, Native American, suggested that the key pillars of the Republican Party today line up, quote, with the principles of tribal sovereignty, saying the core tenets of the Republican Party, decentralized government, self-determination, economic prosperity, lower energy cost, and strong public safety align with the principles of tribal sovereignty, she noted. By contrast, well-intentioned democratic reforms too often undermine sovereignty. Under FDR, the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 forced a one-size-fits-all model of governance that disregarded traditional systems and tied federal funding to this imposed framework. What was presented as empowerment ultimately diminished nationhood, reinforced federal control, and debilitated any hope of self-sufficiency. The long-term consequences of such federal policy failures are still felt on the Pine Ridge Reservation today. It was as recently as 2022 that the state assemblywoman was urging people to vote early, writing your reproductive rights are on the line. So another Republican, this time an elected or Democrat, that has been chased away from the Democrat Party into the arms of Republicans. Yesterday, Trump really whipping him at the UN. We'll play some of that audio coming up. And a couple of weird, odd things occurring at the United Nations that many people think were efforts to sabotage. I'd say more just try and make Trump look dumb and awkward. The teleprompter was not operating properly when he got up there. There were some mic issues at one point, and then after some apparently UN workers had been heard telling people that they were going to stop the escalators while Trump and Melania were on them in order to create an awkward moment, and then that actually happened. Now, the United Nations, they're like, hey, listen, it was caused by either their security or a camera person that ran to the top of the escalator. When Trump and Melania were there, there's two variations. One of them is that it was security, and another one is that it was a photographer that ran up there to get a picture, and somehow that tripped some sort of safety thing that keeps people from getting sucked under escalator. I don't know whether it's true or not, but conspiracy theories. Sometimes they're really fun. But we'll play some of the audio coming up here from the United Nations in the next hour. I'm Nick Reed. A week from Friday, we're going to be kicking off Farm Fest 2025 Ozark Empire Fairgrounds, along with Brad Pistol, host of Safe Money Radio. We will, on that Friday, be doing the morning show, and then around the time the morning show, I think that's when the actual Farm Fest opens, at 9 a.m.
I believe so.
That's how it was last year. We did the show, and then the gates opened, and then on Saturday, last year I did the show at noon, but we've got some show lineup changes that have taken place since then. And Sarah's show is at 10 a.m., so I will be filling in for Sarah from Farm Fest on Saturday at 10 a.m. That'll be the 4th of October. And throughout the day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, going to be milling around and hanging out with some of our different partners. Superior Metals, Springfield Livestock, of course, Sandcrest Trailer Sales, a huge one as well. They have been tremendously helpful in raising money through their generous donation, once again, of a really high-end trailer. And you can buy raffle tickets to win that trailer. The proceeds are going to go to Warrior's Journey. And it was a success last year. Sandcrest Trailer Sales said we want to be part of it again this year. So, they're stepping up and making that donation. A very generous commitment there. And each of those days, we'll check in with the folks over there. And you don't have to come out there to purchase raffle tickets. You can go to KSGF.com in the Farm Fest section. Is it one of the top tiles?
Yes.
One of the top tiles, and through there you'll see a way that you can purchase some of those raffle tickets online. When is the drawing at the end of Farm Fest? It was last year, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be on Sunday sometime in the afternoon.
So if you're thinking, I'll get around to it later, I believe that window of opportunity is shrinking, and so I wouldn't wait. And if you are out at Farm Fest, of course, you can do it out there as well. And they're great folks at Sandcrest Trailer Sales, and just worth stopping by and saying hey to. And that's what we're going to be doing all weekend long. Not this, but the following weekend, Farm Fest 2025, Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. An active shooter at a Dallas ICE facility, a facility that, according to Democrats in the media, is housing Nazis and Gestapo. These are people that are disappearing family members. And, of course, we've got a sniper on the roof, shoots 3 of them before he takes his own life, assuming it's a him. Usually it's a guy that does this sort of thing. And that's the apparent information we have at this time. Authorities saying clearly this was targeting ICE. And this is what everyone knows, this is what the rhetoric coming from the left is going to cause. We all know it at this point. They may claim that there is not a connection. They know there is. You don't demonize people in this constant nonstop drumbeat and then have someone take them out and then go, I'm sure that's not connected to what we've been saying at all. Are you serious? No one is that stupid. This is the country that the Democrats have delivered us. And part of that is going to be the left doing what they can to disconnect. How dare you blame? This isn't about politics. But they've made it about that. And a great question to ask is, how many people have to be murdered because of reasons that are reasons that you give these people before you decide to stop? How many's too many? Is there an amount? I suspect it is until they get their way. That is how terrorism works. That is the motivating factor behind terrorism. You create an environment that is so frightening to people that they will change the way they behave. I think, unfortunately for the left, the Democrat Party, the average American is not going to comply. They may frighten some people, But I suspect for every one person that they may frighten into submission, there's more than one that starts to stand up for the first time. I don't believe the numbers ultimately are going to work in their favor. They're going to have to kill a lot of Americans in order to make the numbers work for them. And it's clear they're trying. And we'll see long term what comes of it. But I just think they're going to have to kill too many of us for it to have the results that they intend. I want to play some audio. President Donald Trump at the United Nations yesterday. Some of it's somewhat humorous. His teleprompter's not working. Have you seen the video of that?
Mm-mm.
You should watch the video of it because what is so funny, his eyes. And I don't know how to describe it, but when he is up there and he's waiting for the teleprompter to get loaded, some people believe this was done in order to put him in an awkward position. I think all it does is it makes him look like a normal person to the average individual, certainly not the behavior of a dictator. Whether it was intentional or not, he stood up there and was joking about somebody's going to be in very big trouble. But the like his eyes, the way that they're sort of like cutting at the, I don't know. There's some. Do you see it? I don't know how to describe it, but it's really funny to me. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight, showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 80.
Listen to this headline. This is, it's about Don Lemon. Ex-CNN host Charlie Kirk Memorial was about Christians claiming divine permission to rule. Yep, that's what it was. He clearly really understood what was going on there. Some of these declarations these people make, you can tell they are a different type of human being. They cannot comprehend. It is evidently not in their DNA to comprehend that there are just actually good people that want to do the right thing, that care about others, even that they really truly take the oftentimes almost impossible efforts to love their own enemies. That is, they just cannot comprehend it. So they see everything through the lens of power because that's how they operate. So when they see people of faith lifting one another up, providing comfort to one another, expressing, the glory of God and Christ, and how we need to continue to not to have violence and fighting, but to express love and to try and spread that. In the minds of a person on the left, they're thinking, well, what's their angle here? What is it they're really trying to do? Oh, I see what they're trying to do. This is a way to coax people into convincing them that they should be the all-powerful overlords of everyone. They are incapable of thinking like just a normal human being. That's how damaged they become when they are in a self-created prison cell of cynicism, thirst for power, and hatred from anyone who has a diverse perspective on things in life. There were a number of instances that occurred at the United Nations that many people feel were attempts to try to create awkward situations for Donald Trump, mic problems, the escalator stopping as soon as he got on it, the teleprompter not working. And while on one hand, some people can look at that and be like paranoid much, but on the other, the left is so catty. These are people that when Bush won the presidency, the Clinton staff broke all of the W's off of all of the keyboards on all of the computers, and hell, there may have been typewriters in the White House at the time because of George W. Bush. Tore them off. And of course, the Clintons stole a bunch of furniture and stuff from the White House as well. These are very catty people. So it wouldn't surprise me. Trump, however, has a way of, it doesn't matter when these things happen. He just doesn't, I don't know. He just rolls with stuff. Someone had texted in, this is so true. Can you imagine Biden being at the UN yesterday? The escalator, the teleprompter, things would have been a total dumpster fire. Yeah. You imagine him on an escalator, just the confusion. Or a oh my gosh. At the United Nations and his teleprompter doesn't work? I don't know what he would have done. This is what Trump did when he realized as his speech was supposed to be rolling for him to be reading on the teleprompter, but instead nothing was there.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. And I don't mind making the speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless. And that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
You know, I mentioned the video of it, and you watched it. To me, the funniest part is his eyes. And I was trying to figure out a way to describe the look, but I think perhaps, and you could tell me if you think this is accurate, the look is, we both know what's going on here.
Yes.
He kind of squints his eyes a little bit like he's looking at the audience, and it's this sort of accusatory. Like when maybe you've got a young child and the young child is doing something they shouldn't be doing, and you give them that look. Like it's not to the level that you need to go over and discipline them, but maybe you're talking to the adults and the kid's got taking more cookies than he should, and so you just sort of give him that look with the eyes cut just a little bit, as if I don't think so. I know what you're doing. That to me is what that look was. I just think it was funny.
Screenshotting it so we could put it in your headlines.
All right, so here is some of what Trump had to say regarding the worthwhile nature, the value of the United Nations.
No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. Very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier.
Yeah. Of all you think about of all the people that would not be thrown off by having no teleprompter, it would be Trump. And in fact, probably more punishing for the audience because, Trump, without having a specific script, he can talk on and on and on and weave, do a lot of the weaving. When I was in high school, I participated in what was called Model UN. This is probably still around. It was one of the things that the smart kids did. And we all got in the bus on one day and drove to MSU, the campus. And I believe it was in Plaster Student Union. I think that's where it was, but it was the second floor, sort of a ballroom. And handful of students from schools all over the state designated different countries they represented, and so we were there to learn how the United Nations operated. And you get tasked with, just what do you want to do? And so, write up a resolution for peace or whatever. You learn to write up these resolutions, and then you'd go around and sort of politic and try to get people to support your resolution, and you go through the whole rigmarole. And, it was kind of fun. It was interesting to learn. But I do remember, of course, in my mind, I'm recognizing, this obviously is different in the capacity that there's no one we're just kids at a school. So whatever resolution we pass, it's meaningless. It's for learning. It's for show. Because there's no entity that then implements it. And in a conversation, it may have been with our sponsor, it was some adult, someone that I felt knew more about these things than I did. I had asked, when this stuff happens at the UN, how does it get implemented? Who does that? The UN does. And so I was like, but how does that really work? I mean, what if they don't? What if they're like, what if they don't do it? They're just supposed to. And there was something about that conversation that made me think that doesn't seem like a real solid way to get things done in a meaningful way. You have a bunch of people from all over the country, or all over the world, rather. And, for us, it's, I guess, an analogy. It's fun. Hey, we get to go to a campus. We're in high school. We get to travel away. We're somewhere new, away from our parents. So, even though we're here for something serious, we get to have fun. We got to go to Mr. Gotti's Pizza, which existed just a few blocks away at the time, and have a good time. And it's like that is like the UN, but that's the kids' version. UN, same thing. You have these UN ambassadors from all over the world, and they get together in the United States and, get hookers and, just have a fun time, spend taxpayer dollars. And you come up with resolutions, but so what? And, to Trump's point in terms of meaningful things being done, 6 months he's president and he gets peace deals, 7 peace deals stopping wars, 7. And the UN doesn't even bother to pick up the phone and be like, hey, do you need any help with this, even if it's clerical stuff? Nothing. What does the UN do? I used to mistakenly believe that the United Nations was a worthless organization. But I have since learned that it has great value. The problem is it has great value for really, really bad people. It has great value for very corrupt people. It has great value for dictators. It has great value for human traffickers. It has great value for rapists of children that sell those children to other rapists. This is what the United Nations is. It is a human atrocity and a moral sin that that the United States is a member of the United Nations and that the United Nations is even allowed to exist. What most people don't realize, and I'm going to share some of this information with you coming up, just so you hopefully will, it'll be additional information you did not have before, and perhaps you will come to the same conclusion I do. You may not, that the UN is not, well, I don't know, maybe some of you think it's a good organization, but recognize what it is that they actually do. These are very, very, very bad people. This is like Epstein Island, but with the legitimacy of being the United Nations. More coming up in a moment. Pyramid Roofing Company, text line 447-KSGF. Breaking news, 3 people shot at an ICE facility by a rooftop sniper. ICE agents you may recognize as the folks referred to by the left as Nazis, Gestapo, disappearing family members in the middle of the night, some of the most evil people in existence. Gavin Newsom recently signing what many people say isn't legal legislation banning law enforcement from having masks over their faces to hide their identities from would-be assassins. And so, this is what's expected. This is what they are doing. This is what they are developing. And so, unfortunately, these are the results we're going to see with increasing frequency. Any additional details that pop up, of course, we will make sure to give you. But last word is that the sniper who targeted these folks at the ICE facility ended up taking his own life, and it is being recognized as a specifically targeted shooting of these individuals. Probably not like who they are, but because of the profession, I suspect is what that reference of targeting is all about. Before traffic, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. A lot of stress in life. You see all the things going on. Maybe work is stressful. Sometimes just, everything that's going on in the world could be stressful. And the ability to get home, especially outside when the weather's nice and the air is clean, and have an accommodating outdoor living space, whether that means having a great place to have your green egg or your Traeger or your Blackstone. That's your form of relaxation. Have a big television out there over covered, having a bar set up, having water features, sound incorporated into it, or just a small area for you to maybe have a Buffalo Trace and a cigar on a Friday night around the smokeless fire pit. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, they can do it for you. Plan ahead, though. These are not folks because they are premium and they are in high demand. They aren't the folks that if you want it done in 2 weeks that you call. Plan ahead. I'd be thinking for springtime even. They'll come out now and give you an idea of what they can do. You can talk and work with them on what it is you want done, and then go over what sort of investment that is, and then be prepared and get on the calendar on a future date once it is they can begin your transformation, just like they did for me. HunterHardscapes.com under Nick's endorsements, the KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 74. Tonight, showers will continue with a low around 57. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And taking a look at Friday, sunny with a high near 80.
All right, I'm going to shift what I had told you I was going to talk about in depth to some degree, and that is the United Nations, which is essentially put Jeffrey Epstein to shame in terms of child sex trafficking and rape all across this world. And this has been going on for decades. And the people in charge of investigating it are the people who are doing it themselves. And so, amazingly, they continue to get away with it. Some of the stories are just, they are so horrific. As young as 11 years old, when they live in some of these war-torn countries and they are starving, and these UN folks will only give them food in exchange for sex as 11 and 12-year-olds. These are widespread. There are entire camps set up that have been doing these things. No one's ever held accountable. And this is why I contend the United Nations is not a worthless organization. It has great value. It's just evil and bad people. Now, the reason I'm going to shift this, we'll talk about it tomorrow, is because there are a couple of other things. I just don't feel like I'm going to have the time right now to devote to it, partially because of new information that is as flowing in, changing information regarding this shooting at an ICE facility, and some interesting new information that I think is potentially somewhat deceiving. So here, there are initial reports a sniper on a roof, shot and killed 3 ICE agents at an ICE facility. Then it changed to, it wasn't 3, 2 died. Then the report is ICE agents weren't killed. It was 2 detainees that were killed. All the reports, though, are consistent in that it was a sniper on a roof who then killed himself. So you have a few possible scenarios here. One is it's some anti-illegal immigrant person that decided they wanted to kill illegal immigrants. Now, to me, that doesn't necessarily add up, though anything's possible, because these are individuals that are being deported. So they're exactly, if you are anti-illegal immigrant, those are people that are being taken care of. They are exactly where you want them to be, on their way out of the United States. So that would be the last place. If someone who was anti-illegal immigrant were going to target people in this country illegally, that would be the last place. Now, of course, if you're talking about a deranged person, not everyone thinks logically. This could have been targeted in terms of, because we know a lot of the people who are being deported are gang members. One of the potential motivations here is that they were targeting gang members. It was one gang targeting another. Now, that ultimately doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the individual that did the shooting then, so the reports are now, shot himself. Now, of course, that could always change. But that's what's being reported now. And that's not generally how rival gang members behave, where you have one that is dispatched to take out 2 rival gang members and then kills himself. That just doesn't add up. What the latest sounds like, and this to me is the most plausible, is the sniper was shooting into sort of this area, as it was described. This is how I envisioned it as it was described. In fact, let me see. Well, I don't know which story you have. Okay, all right. Because let's see, multiple injuries, at least 3 people have been taken this. Okay. So this is how it's described in a statement to Fox News. So this may be what it is you're printing off. The shots were fired into the area where detainees are brought in and said that all the ICE employees are accounted for. Now, in my mind, you've seen before, not necessarily with illegal aliens that are being detained, but, there'll be a high-profile case where some criminal is brought in a van into that sort of area where those vehicles bring prisoners, and then they're brought out. And of course, usually when you see this, there's a lot of cameras around, and of course there's 80 police officers because it's a high-profile crazy killer like a Ted Bundy or someone, and then they go from that well of sorts into the actual facility. It sounds, the way it's described to Fox News, as if that was the area in which the individuals were shot. Now, if that was the case, it seems plausible that you had what the sniper saw as kind of fish in a barrel and a lot of ICE uniforms in there and just shooting in there, hoping to take out some ICE, and I shouldn't say the grace of God, one human being for another, but what would be a very fortunate circumstance for the ICE agents, the individual that was, potentially trying to take out ICE agents because of that fish in a barrel situation, instead erroneously hit some detainees. Now, we don't know that that's the case either. Those, to me, are the 3 most likely scenarios. And the third of those is the one that seems most plausible, particularly given that it was an individual who killed himself. Now, like I said, it could. I don't think the gang member, that because of the suicide, if that is what occurred, the sniper, if he did actually kill himself. That one is, it almost makes no sense whatsoever. So you either then have someone who is anti-illegal immigrant deciding to do this, which, again, if you're that anti-illegal immigrant, these are detainees on their way out, and you are shooting into an area in which you knew, if there were, I mean, there must have been ICE agents in there. I don't know that somebody would take that sort of chance at accidentally hitting an ICE agent. But if it's somebody that, is crazy, and ICE agents are Nazis and so forth, and, I could see him firing into a scenario like that and potentially accidentally hitting some of the detainees and then killing himself. We'll see. Whatever the answer is, I'm sure there's a good chance that there will be, behind it, much skepticism. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Whether your air conditioner isn't working, your furnace is in need of repairs, or you want to improve your home's indoor air quality, Russell and his team, they have got you covered for all of your HVAC needs. They're locally owned, family owned, and just all around awesome. I had the Foreman team out at my house probably a couple months ago at this point, and I upgraded both my AC and my furnace. It was much needed. They did just a wonderful job. Couldn't be happier with the work that they did out at my home. And right now, it is a really good time to get ahead of those maintenance items and make sure that your furnace is ready for the cooler weather, which will be here before you know it. They do residential and commercial services too, so keep that in mind. If it is time to have Russell and his team out to your home, reach out and schedule your appointment today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
NBC, understandably so, is really pushing this new show, The Paper, that's on Peacock streaming. It's supposed to be an Office style. In fact, I guess you would call it a spinoff. Oscar is in it. He's the only Office character. But I watched the first 2 episodes, and I believe the premise is that Dunder Mifflin got bought by this, that got bought by that, and ended up this, that, and then whatever company owned it, there's a number of divisions. There's like a toilet paper division, but then they had also bought this newspaper, and I think maybe a nepotism situation, a guy who just loved the idea of journalism got put in charge of this paper that essentially was operating as a click and drag, just stories that they pay for off the wire, and then it's advertising other than that. But he's got big dreams and big ideas, and I don't know if it's going to make it. I don't know. I read that they already ordered a second season for it, but I think if you're expecting it to be like The Office, it's not, other than it's the documentary style. Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't watched it yet. I was afraid that it would be bad.
There hasn't been anything in the first couple episodes I watched that would be, woke, where you're like, oh boy, here we go. Now I'm going to be lectured. There hasn't in the first two episodes been anything like that. But part of what I believe as somebody who still watches reruns of The Office is it was just absolute 100% the sort of humor that resonated with normal, average people. And some of the things that they joked about are, even today, there's some episodes when they run on Comedy Central where they edit out stuff or they bleep out stuff because it is insensitive. And that's the problem with trying to replicate a show like The Office. Is part of the reason that people liked it is because there were demonstrations of absurdity around things like homosexuality and mental disabilities. And the thing of it was the jokes weren't about the people who were homosexuals or had these sort of protected areas, but they were about the absurd thoughts and stereotypes other people, particularly Michael Scott, had about them. And people are so sensitive today, and particularly obviously on the left, and they can't find humor in things. And so I just think that the magic that makes people watch The Office today, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said to myself in my own head, well, there's no way they could make that episode today. And that's where it becomes difficult to try and duplicate the magic of a show that you can't really duplicate. Or you could do it and get away with it, and I think it'd be wildly popular. But the people who ultimately make these decisions, I just don't think that they're in a place where they would do that. There was a press conference yesterday, and it was ahead of the Ryder Cup, which I guess is Tuesday. Don't follow golf, don't know a lot about golf. I've, mini golf, that sort of thing. Yes, but regular golf, no. There is a player, Scotty Scheffler, some of you probably very familiar with. During a press conference yesterday, he revealed that President Trump will often text or call him after big tournament wins. He also praised the president for his mensch quality of treating everyone, from the caddies to the cafeteria workers to every single human being out there, exactly 100% the same. He said whether it's the person serving us lunch or the caddy on the golf course or the president of the club, doesn't matter. They all get treated exactly the same. And this is, I 100% believe about Donald Trump. And you know what? I was watching, there was a video of a guy, and I mean, some of these people, I think he was a lefty, he was just going around somewhere, it may have been San Francisco. What do you think about Donald Trump? I mean, just trying to create meanness and nastiness. So you find a real liberal area, and you go around asking people so that you can put up content talking about Donald Trump is racist, Donald Trump's homophobe, Donald Trump is that's the only purpose of many of these interviews. And the guy was an older, sort of hippie-looking guy that, given California, I think some would assume this is a lefty, maybe in the LGBT community. And he was asked, so what do you think about Donald Trump? And he's like, Donald Trump is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. He said, and he didn't elaborate as to why, but he said, I have 2 letters from him, and I have them at my house. And he said, anytime I have people over and they are saying horrible things about him, I share those letters. And that man, in the few exchanges I've had with him, has treated me with such amazing respect. And you hear that consistently, people who, quote, average people that have had interactions with Donald Trump well before he was president, that he treats everyone the same. That when it comes to everyday interactions, he treats them with respect, dignity. You hear the stories about how some past presidents or even current elected officials treat their staff. treat the Secret Service, treat average people that are working at a coffee shop that they're wanting to do a photo op. And you just hear these stories about how horrible they will treat people. I mean, it's well known. Staffers in the White House were told, and people don't deny this. Some of these stories come from Hillary Clinton supporters that worked for her, that when she was walking, you were ordered to duck into a room so she did not have to see you. And if there was not a room to duck into, you look away. Do not make eye contact with her. Kamala Harris was known for having a tremendously high turnover of staff because of how poorly she treated people. When she was running for president, there was some Democrat citizen who had written a letter to the editor about his son at one point years ago being thrilled to get an internship or an entry-level job in Kamala Harris's office, and it didn't last long because of how horrible Kamala Harris treated everyone. Bill Clinton, by the way, now, other than, sexual assault and rape, outside of that, he was always said to treat people pretty well and treat them with respect and dignity as well. That Hillary was the real problem in that relationship. But for all of the demonization of Donald Trump, going so far as to claim that he's a dictator and Hitler, yet when you talk to average people who have worked under him, construction workers, custodians, worked on golf courses, or observed him in those environments, that's one of the things that they stand out. It does not matter who you are. He treats you exactly the same. And I'll tell you why I think it is, and I believe this, because he recognizes that everyone that is doing something in life has meaning and that they have some value that maybe he can even learn from them. He's said to ask questions a lot of people. Why do you do it this way? Or how do you do it that way? Because he sees this is a person that has information that I don't. And so this is a person of value. So it isn't surprising when you hear that sort of description, and it's pretty consistent regarding Donald Trump.